Now, the facilitator during the meeting has a couple of things that they want to keep in mind. Typically, you want to make sure that you're there early, that you're ready and available to greet everyone as they enter. You want to be able to set a really positive and collaborative environment, one that's open, that's very open, and that is trusting, and people feel good about joining so that they are really working at their optimal conditions. Some other things to keep in mind when you're starting a meeting is that you might want to go over some ground rules and expectations. These can include things like make sure that you're limiting your or you're not multitasking or limiting your multitasking. So set your emails on silent. Make sure that you let everyone speak and try not to interrupt. You can use things like the hand raising icon if you're meeting virtually, or actually raise your hand physically if you're meeting in person when you want to let the facilitator know that you want to speak so that you're not interrupting people. Things like that are really helpful to make sure that everybody's on the same page, that we all have similar expectations of ourselves and each other, and it can make the meeting go a lot more smoothly. You can go over this before each meeting, or you can create these at the beginning of the working relationship and just have them readily available so that everybody can read them or see them for each subsequent meeting. We go into more details on setting ground rules and expectations in resources in our Notion page. This is also a great time to either review the agenda verbally and talk through it, or you can post it somewhere where the participants are able to read it throughout the meeting so that they know what to expect is coming next and to follow that timeline that you set up. You want to make sure that you are identifying any time limits or critical tasks. Maybe there's somebody who has to leave early, so you have to get through a certain agenda item within a certain time period, or you need to make sure that this specific task is completed before anybody leaves. Those are really important to make everybody aware of so that you can make sure that you're focusing on it and getting that done right away, and you are making the most of the meeting time. You might also want to talk about cues for limiting time and moving on to the next topic. This can make it a lot easier for people to accept if they need to be interrupted or cut off, or if they want to continue talking about a topic, but they can understand then that there's just not enough time to do that in this meeting. And there's, again, more strategies for this on our Notion page. But some cues for limiting time might be that the facilitator will make a certain hand gesture or say something when it is time to move on to the next item. You might use timers. You might also have another group member or team member be a timekeeper who is responsible for letting people know when to move on to the next topic. And it's always important that if somebody does still have something to say, that you give them an opportunity to finish what they're saying either asynchronously after the meeting or potentially set up an additional time outside of the meeting to discuss it with the people who are relevant. So that if you do have to move on, you're not just cutting somebody off and not allowing them to finish what they need to say. You also want to make sure that everyone gets a chance to speak. This is going back to creating that collaborative environment that ensures that everybody feels safe sharing their thoughts and opinions and making sure that everybody's included in decision making. This will make for a really engaging working atmosphere and will make sure that everybody can work to their best abilities. So a very common way to ensure that people get equal speaking chances and that one person or a couple of people don't dominate the conversation is the use of rounds. And that just means that as you're going through a topic, each person has the opportunity to speak. And that might look like the facilitator calling on each person to give their input to a topic, or the facilitator can identify the first person, and then when each person is done saying their piece, they can pass it on to the next person in the group. And this is a really great way to make sure that even the most shy or the person who may not typically speak up or raise their hand in a meeting still gets to talk. Shared decision making is also really critical during meetings to make sure that everybody has a say. This will prevent teams from making decisions that not everybody agrees to and not everybody is feeling good about. It makes sure that the team is considering all perspectives when making a decision. And there are some more resources on shared decision making in our Notions page, but two of the types of shared decision making models that you could use are agreeing by consensus, where everyone has to agree on a decision. And if anybody has any concerns, or is not feeling fully in agreement with the decision that is being made, the group then works to rectify those issues and then represents it for another vote until everybody agrees. So you don't move on to actually doing the task until everyone has agreed to move forward with that decision. Another one that can take less time is consent-based decision making. And this is just where no one actively objects. So maybe not everyone is in full agreement with the decision. They don't love the decision, but nobody's going to be standing in the way of moving forward with it. And again, you just want to make sure that you're giving everyone the opportunity to share any objections they have. And the group then would have to address those objections before moving forward.